Hey, what's up? It's Mr. Young.
And it's foreign in the building, bro. How are you?
I'm doing good. What a week as well, because this week we got some local wrestling to go and enjoy.
Yes.
SPW, they are doing their big Valour event, which pretty big main events, I have to say. They got guests coming in from overseas, and we'll preview the card in just a few moments. But first and foremost, thank you so much for watching the video. As always, the Discord link is right there in the description. Come and join us. Outside of the podcast, I love that all of you are just talking about whatever wrestling news that comes up. It's a real community, a real family, as Vin Diesel likes to say.
Indeed, it is. And especially those of you who are updating us on our Discord every single day. Bro, I don't need to check Dave Meltzer, bro.
Forget
we got
it.
our own dirt sheets, bro. With this kick to the guts Discord community, bro.
And the best part about a wrestling community like this is like, we know we got fans from all kinds of walks of life who like to watch different types of wrestling, right? But everyone comes together to discuss, to just share. And that's what I love. You know, even though like obviously Mr. Young has his biases, you have... Okay, you're quite objective. I have to give it to you. Mr. Journalist over here, you know.
I'm the Chris Van Vliet of Singapore,
Chris, I love it, bro. I love it. But, okay, talking about family, this guy feels like family because we literally have seen him grow up in the local scene, huh?
Yeah, indeed. Like, one thing great about being involved and supporting the local wrestling community is that we've seen wrestlers get their start, and seen them grow through the years. I mean, we started this podcast in 2018, so that's 5 years, bro. Somebody who is a kid then can be of legal age now, bro.
No, and that's exactly it. I will always forever remember this guy as the shy young boy who started out at Grapple Max back in Juchiet. And this was one of our first few, sort of outings as the podcast, representing the podcast, going to watch a local wrestling show, right?
Bro, I don't think he's that shy even as a kid, bro. I remember this guy come out to me straight away, introduce himself, and he talked about how much of a big fan he was. And the thing that struck me about him was he was only 15 or 16 then, bro.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, his journey, and that's our guest for this week's episode of the podcast, and he will be wrestling on the SPW card as well, by the way, going up for a title, no less.
Yeah, for sure. And other than that, he's just fresh off a tour of Australia. So he's going to be sharing with us his experience wrestling there, doing multiple shows, and live as a professional wrestler in Australia. And this is kind of like his swan song in a way, Mr. Young, this period in time.
Yeah, because, well, actually, you know what? We'll let him tell you about it. Here we go. It's a boy. He's got the sauce.
Yeah, bro. Straight saucing. John Day, bro.
Did you just say straight saucing?
Yeah, bro. He's saucing up and down, bro. Swerving on that wood. I mean, that's a Beyonce line, but sure.
I will take it from you that it's a Beyonce line. Swerving. Well, he's on the wood. Anyway, here we go. Let's check with you. And check it out. Joining us on the show today is Straight Sauce John Day.
Hi, fellas. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
How are you, my friend? It's good to see you, of course. We have so many things to talk about. And first of all, I can't believe, when was the first time we met you?
It would have been my debut match, so nearly 5 years ago.
Yeah, all the way in Juchiet, right?
Yeah, Juchiet, yeah.
It's kind of crazy that we've seen this guy from a boy grow up into like a man. Is that not true, Foreign?
Yeah, I mean, bro, like the first time we probably saw you was like you were 16, right? 60, damn. So now you're 21? Was it 20?
Yes. Yeah. I'm 21. I turned 21 in May.
Bro, damn.
It's kind of crazy because I remember the whole like shy boy, and then like I think we chatted with his dad, didn't we? And
I did.
He was telling us about how wrestling has like completely changed this shy boy into this flamboyant sort of like, hey, engaging with the crowd sort of a person. So hey, let's talk about that. All right, like looking back at the past, like you mentioned 5 years, right? Tell us a little bit about the journey, as in, how much has wrestling changed you reckon? I know we say it, but like from your perspective, how much has it really changed you?
I think the thing about me compared to everyone else, like in Singapore wrestling, for example, is the fact that I got into this as a kid. So my entire quote unquote adult life has in some way, shape or form been involved with pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And so like the effect that pro wrestling has had on me can't be put aside. And the amount of like opportunities outside of wrestling that have come because of wrestling Like when I started doing stand-up, that came because of meeting Sam through wrestling. Like my first proper job, quote unquote, was working for Showtime in his like branding and marketing company outside. Like it's just wrestling has had such like an insane effect on my life outside of wrestling, and like I can't imagine what my life would have been if I'd never gone into Grapple Max, as cliche as it sounds.
Right. So Grapple Max was your canon event, as it were. Can you even imagine a life where perhaps that day you decided not to go for a trial class, not to sign up? How different do you think you would have been?
I think honestly, wrestling has given me so many like the development I've had as a person would not have been possible without pro wrestling. And like just my confidence, the fact that I work out, I care about the way I look, like those kind of things. It's just like it's all just wrestling. Like I even try and like when I'm talking about like actual real life work, I compare it to wrestling.
Oh dear God. Yeah, like, that makes the three of us, bro. That makes the three of us.
Everything is wrestling in a really philosophical way. You could call everything is pro wrestling.
Well, I mean, that's why we love pro wrestling, isn't it? It's sort of like this exaggerated version of real life. But in real life, you can't beat up your boss. In real life, you can't slap the guy that's been talking shit about you, right? So that's why we love it, and that's why we watch it week in and week out.
Yeah, I think that's like pro wrestling has really like had that sort of effect on me. Where I really don't think my life would have been anyway. I can't imagine it without it.
Right.
So the crazy,
go ahead.
The crazy thing I wanted to say as well was when I first met you, and remember you had this thing about your Instagram profile. It was like a nearly sized John. Like then suddenly it became big day John.
Every match I got slightly bigger. I remember.
Yeah. So like when you were that 16-year-old kid thinking about what you wanted to achieve in wrestling, right? In these 5 years, what do you think was the thing that kind of came true, and what is the thing that you didn't expect from wrestling that you grew out of?
The thing that came true is like I feel like now I don't get viewed as I can like, how do I put it? I can call myself a pro wrestler. Like I am a pro wrestler. I'm not a pro wrestling trainee. I'm not someone who wrestles. I am a pro wrestler. And that's insane to me. And the other thing that like I found insane, especially with my trip, was the fact that I could walk into venues and walk into shows where I've never met anyone. No one knows who I am. I just shake everyone's hands, and 20 minutes I'm just like bantering and having a laugh with people I've never met before, just through the medium of pro wrestling.
When was that turning point? When was that moment you realized I'm a pro wrestler? I'm not a trainee anymore. Like, do you think there's a specific event or a specific maybe couple of weeks, or was it like a gradual thing? Like slowly, you just realize, hey, wait a minute, this is who I am. This is what I do now.
I think like that it really was like a growth thing. It wasn't like a set point, but the thing that made me confident in my abilities, I was like, I can carry myself. Was the Fight Club show, was that triple threat with me, Butcherman and Cornelius Lowe. I love that match so much.
Young, you were there, right? You were there live for that.
That match was crazy. I did not expect the finish and the carnage that you guys would have brought. Did you guys all like work together, or was it a lot of it was like ad lib?
So that show, just to put like context on that show, that show was the brainchild of me and Sam C getting very drunk at Orgao Tap Room.
Oh dear.
And so we were supposed to, just before I'd first started doing stand-up, and we were supposed to discuss like my first ever 5 minutes, because I was supposed to do like a spot for him at Projector. And so we're just supposed to like hang out at Orgao, like plan our 5 minutes, and then like write basically. And so we spent about 8 hours there, 5 minutes talking about the stand-up, and the rest just like fantasy booking a wrestling show.
Okay, dear God. I want to trace back this relationship, right, that you have with Sam as well, because I met Sam doing Twitch streaming. Like he streamed on Twitch. I think he hasn't streamed in a while, so I was like, oh, okay, this guy's a wrestling fan. He's a stand-up comedian as well. That's how I found out about him. But how did you meet him, and then how did he suddenly become this, like, because I feel like he was that first guy to bring sort of that whole like Grapple Max and SPW guys together
Yeah.
in one place, right? Like how did this whole thing come about?
I mean, my friendship with him started because of Red Dot Wrestling, which was his stream wrestling game.
Oh
where, yeah. So I was on that, and then just sort of a friendship came from that. And yeah, it was just, and like that. You say that's the first time GraphMax and SPW like worked together. Yeah, you're right. It's the first time a GraphMax guy has worked on an SPW guy has worked on a GraphMax show, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
you
technically,
can see the ripple effect of what that opened.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, right? It's like what's that incursion event? It happens once, and then all of a sudden, I'm doing a Doctor Strange reference right here, now. But
do you feel like that pandemic actually kind of changed the dynamics for all the companies, and I think people were more open to collaborating after that?
I mean, for me personally, COVID was when I started taking my wrestling really seriously. Because let's put it like this: I spent 2019, I was essentially in GraphMax 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I was in GraphMax 5 days a week, running my vintage store on the side. That was basically my life. And with COVID, it forced me to actually go out and like find education in pro wrestling outside of GraphMax. So that's how, like, through like Emman and the Malaysia Pro Wrestling Boys, I got introduced to Carlo Cannon.
Right.
Okay.
And Carlo Cannon, I learned a lot from Carlo about, and I learned a lot from Carlo about wrestling, but also just being around his trainees and seeing how good and how knowledgeable some of them are, yet still willing to learn. I realized I needed to step up, so that's why I invested in my gear. I started going to the gym. I started watching how I eat. And like now, I don't think I would have taken my presentation as a wrestler as seriously.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for COVID, because it forced me to think about those things.
Oh, okay.
Like,
When
I
you
know,
talk,
like,
go ahead.
Far, I noticed how you like my straight source music and all that stuff. I was because you mentioned in the podcast, I was like, my music is custom, my Tron is custom, like all my stuff is I'm very specific about how I've marketed everything, just to show off a very specific character. So I was quite proud of that when you pointed it out.
Yeah, not just that, it's the Titantron as well, like all the color scheme, getting all pink with that lollipop. Like if I recall, I said you were the first guy, the first wrestler since Tori Wilson that rocked that lollipop well, man. So, so I'm really proud of that presentation. So the pandemic kind of changed a lot, and I think we both noticed that how seriously you took your physique and how you carried yourself. But I also did recall, like, you also took some time to kind of like take a slight break from Grapple Max and try to explore other options. At what moment in time did the transition happen where you wanted to kind of explore fields beyond wrestling as well?
So the reason for that was because after I did Fight Club, I was a bit, I can't really get into it, but some personal stuff happened, but also I just wanted to like explore myself as a creative as well as a wrestler, because I have I like to think I have a very creative brain. I like just doing things.
Right.
And since I knew I was going to be leaving Singapore, that was when I got my uni and stuff sorted out. Around that time. So I was like, I want to try everything.
Right.
And just really see where my creativity can take me. So that's why when I took a break from Grapple Max, I just did stand up and like did creative work and just sort of went with that and saw where that would take me.
Okay. And the funny thing is, right, and we talked about how we link wrestling to real life, and just hearing you say all of that stuff, I can relate as well as a person in the media industry. I'm sure you can as well, foreigner as well. Sometimes you do a certain thing and you do it for so long, you need to take a break from it. It's not even a matter of, you want to stay in the same place forever. No, you need to go outside, do maybe something different, something adjacent. And that stuff ultimately also impacts what you do, right? So you learn, you pick and choose. And that's what I guess we can all call ourselves creatives over here. That's our process. It has to be our process. If not, we're just going to be stuck and we'll be doing the same thing. We'll be, office workers,
Yeah.
Indeed. And another thing I kind of also noticed in terms of your maturation, like, other than doing stand-up, you also started like going and trying to apply your craft in different promotions, whether you say like training out with the MyPW boys, having like a stint overseas, and you definitely go talk about your Australian tour in a bit. But like at what point in like your kind of preparation, because you mentioned that you do intend to leave Singapore after this, like where you wanted to like, okay, I'm gonna explore the region at this moment in time.
I think my mindset of wrestling, right? And my mindset around that was that you will learn so much just by being in different venues and different avenues of wrestling.
Yeah.
And like, I'm quite proud of the fact I'm one of like, I think 5 people who's wrestled all 3 Singapore promotions.
Right.
And that wasn't an accident. That was something I wanted to do because I will learn something from working all of them. I grew up in Grapple Max, but I know what an SPW show is like, and I want to work that because that's a different crowd. And I want to work Ring of Rebirth because it's a different style, a different crowd. And it's just very, it's well and good spending all your time working the same situation, but there is no room for growth if you do that, in my opinion. And so I would rather put myself in situations where maybe I'm not comfortable. Maybe I don't wrestle my way in this match. Maybe I don't have a say in every single thing I do. It's not a John Day match. The crowd doesn't know who I am. And I'm okay with that. When I worked for SPW, I found it quite funny because there were people in the crowd who didn't know who I was and came up to me. I was like, that was a really good first match. And I was like,
I may have done this a couple more times, but thanks, appreciate it.
It's 4-year overnight
more
sensation.
Matches. They just go to the other school. My matches are at the other school.
Yeah.
I promise they exist.
It's a 5-year overnight sensation. That's what they call it, right?
What was there like hesitation on your part? Because doing stuff elsewhere, right? Like sometimes you feel a little bit like, that hesitation. Oh, what if they don't embrace me there? Was there that trepidation? If there was, how did you get over it? Because, I think it's something that we all go through. If, we leave a company and we go somewhere else to work, there's always oh man, like, is this going to work out well for me?
Yeah.
I think the biggest part, especially for the doing it in Singapore and like with going on the tour and having the confidence to like travel somewhere where the wrestling is a lot more developed, is I have a confidence in my own ability, but I'm also aware of the fact that I have to get better and there are things I can get better at.
Yeah.
And so it was just that sort of acceptance and then just going with it.
I think that's a great mindset, bro.
Also another thing as well, like you talk about working in the 3 companies, right? And I wanted to ask this question before we talk about the Australia stuff. What is the thing that you learn from wrestling in all 3 promotions? Like from each promotion, what is the individual thing that you learn from each promotion again?
I think like from the 3 places, like Grapmax is where I grew up and I learned how to wrestle essentially. But when I worked the SPW show, for example, their crowd, I found I had to do a bit more to get that reaction because they don't know who I am and because it's so many people.
Yeah.
And so like there was that sort of mindset where I had to work to get that reaction because it's an audience that doesn't know me.
Yeah.
And with Ring of Rebirth, it was like quote unquote being a leader, booking a match, planning the match, letting people, having to work other people into the match rather than just plugging my stuff in. I have to be a senior to help make the match for people to plug their stuff in and make stuff make sense.
It's very interesting that you mentioned like the role that you play in each promotion and match. Like because I remember the SPW match, there was Masa in that match as well, right? And like essentially there was like really ring generals and veterans in that match. And then your Ring of Rebirth match, essentially you were like the most experienced person per se in that match. So like how does it feel like when you have to the difference between leading a match and like following another person's direction in a match?
It's one of those things where you just like, it's a lot of like pro wrestling is a lot of trust. And I feel like it's one of those things where I just have, if I can just understand where the person is coming from with like when I'm listening to a match, and being like the partner in control. It's just follow and trust. Whereas I need that same trust and I need that same cooperation when I'm generaling, for example.
Right.
Okay.
It's just understanding like where it's just not to put it bluntly, knowing your place.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I
it's very
remember.
much just that.
Yeah, I remember a very funny story when Shawn Michaels fought Ric Flair in Ric Flair's retirement match from WrestleMania 24. And then I remembered Ric Flair literally went up to Shawn like at the start of the match, like, oh, I need you to guide me, man. And then he put him in a headlock and he just said to Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels just said to Ric Flair, shut up, listen to me, I'll give you the best match of your career.
Oh,
Like,
are you serious?
yeah, literally, I think they had a behind the scenes or like documentary where as much as Shawn Michaels respected and idolized Ric Flair, but he know at that point in his career, Shawn Michaels was a ring general, and Ric Flair even admitted like, hey, that was all Shawn Michaels. I just shut up and listen to him.
I see.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So, okay, talk to us a little bit about this latest Australian tour. How did it come about? How did you prepare for it? Were you nervous? Tell us.
A to Z. Come on, we want to hear the
Yeah.
So a lot of things. It was a strange trip, but so essentially the reason it came about was there was three main reasons it came about essentially.
Yeah.
I in my opinion, after about 5 years, you can still get better in this region, but if you really want to, you really need to start exploring your horizons as a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, Australia is one of the best independent scenes in the world right now.
I see.
And because I was training with Carlo online and I'm close to Emma and like through COVID, I just made friends with people over there. I was actually supposed to go to Australia just before COVID.
I see.
And honestly, it not happening was a blessing in disguise because now I could do more with it.
Right.
Then another reason is, so my girlfriend moved to the Gold Coast for uni.
Right.
I see.
And then I'm moving to the UK. So it was like I just go stay for a bit then. Yeah, it was one of those.
Right.
And the third reason was just like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not, like, if I want to do this while I'm based in the UK, it's going to cost a lot more money.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm here now, I have the connections, I have faith in myself that I have room to grow, yet I have room to carry myself. I have the ability to carry myself, yet I have room to grow. So I have confidence that I can go over there and not make a tit of myself, essentially.
Right.
Cool. Yeah. Sorry, Young.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about like the different states and the different promotions in Australia that you went to. Can you tell us like essentially what was the schedule? Which promotions were you at, and like any anecdotes from each trip that you were over there?
So essentially, I was supposed to work 7 matches in 7 weeks. That was the original like setup. I ended up working 6 matches in 7 weeks because Jetstar fucked me over. We'll get into that. But,
Okay, Jetstar.
Oh no!
Right? Yeah, I've got beef with Jetstar now.
No.
So my first match in Australia was 4 hours north of Gold Coast, and my opponent was Craven. It was for a company called Wide Bay.
Okay.
And
that's Craven, yes.
Craven, yes. And honestly, I have to thank him so much on this trip because he's one of those people where I was like, "Hi, can you big brother me through this? Help you, thank you." And so,
nice.
I've never experienced this as a pro wrestler in Singapore. I had to sit 4 hours in a car to get to the booking. 4 hours one way. Craven drove 7 hours up to get to the show and picked me up at the 4 hour mark to drive up. 8 hours of travel for a 15-minute match.
Wow.
Correct.
That's crazy.
Damn.
That's like that experience, like you said, that, a lot of like
territories, right?
Territory, experience that we don't really get in like the local scene, right?
And it was funny because I get to the show and it's fucking freezing. Like it's like you guys have seen my new trunks, right? It's like my short trunks.
Yeah.
And so I was in gear. I was backstage. I was with my resistance bands with my lolly in my mouth, just trying to like hype myself up, and I'm fucking freezing. I'm like, oh shit. And then I'm working heel this match, and so I get out and I start like doing my heel shtick to the crowd, getting the crowd to like dislike me. And I'm supposed to cut a promo, but the annoying part is I'm shivering. So what I start doing is like after I come in, right, I just start like getting crowd attention, just like jeering on the crowd to boo me,
Yeah.
just so I've got time to stand under the lights and let them warm me up.
Right,
Oh
right.
dear God.
The thing I realized about Australian crowds versus, or especially that crowd versus like a Singapore crowd, is that crowd, for example, is in a town of like 7,000 people, like 2 hours away from a major city.
Like a
They don't get a
rural
lot.
town.
Yeah, very rural. And like, actually, it was so rural, right? That a fan. So I finish my match. I go to the merch table. I get a beer, and I'm just at the merch table with my beer. And then this fan comes out, and he was just like, he was quite drunk, and he was telling him about how it's his 30th. Like they've come into the town because they live even more rural. They've
Right.
come to the town for his 30th birthday, and he's like, this it's just his 30th birthday. He's gonna watch wrestling, man. He's a farmer. Like
Wow.
he shoots animals and shit. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And so, like, end of the night, I get him. So he's just buying me beers, and I'm like, I'm not gonna say no. And so he gives me his hat. Like he just gives me his baseball cap as like
Right.
thank you for coming to entertain us. Here is a memento for you. I was like, yeah, cool. Just gives me his baseball cap. I give him a couple stickers, and him and his friend have put my stickers on the back of their pickup trucks.
Nice.
So there's now 2 pickup trucks in rural Queensland, which is my face. Just going around.
Oh, this is like true pro wrestling road stories right here.
And it was like that match. I worked Craven, and like nerves did get better on me, so I did need him to carry me through it.
I see.
And I think the one thing that I did pick up on the fly is in Singapore, I don't think we learn how to work on the fly a lot. Like really, really on the fly, like call everything in the ring, da 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 da. But when I was working Craven, I had to learn that as I went. And that was a skill that I carried through a lot, and is a skill that I think I'm gonna carry a lot into my into future.
Yep.
And also the idea of like planning a match an hour before you go out the curtain. Like you get to the venue, you find out who's up, you go. Essentially that sort of thing I've never had to experience here before.
Right.
Wow.
And also I've never, and like, oh yeah, my second match was down in was just south of Brisbane. And the company it was for a company called Venom Pro Wrestling.
Venom.
And Venom was supposed to organize my car up from my accommodation up, but there was a miscommunication, and push come to shove, an hour before the show, I'm still not picked up.
Oh no.
So I'm just like mentally accepting I'm not gonna wrestle today.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
And then I find out like 50 minutes before curtains that my opponent is driving down to pick me up.
Wow. Okay.
So so we have curtains, doors open at 7:00. My opponent picks me up at like 6:20. And then so we have a 40-minute drive up to the venue.
Yeah.
And so of course we spend 35 minutes of that car journey talking shit and 5 minutes planning a match. And so we get to the venue, right? And we get there 10 minutes before doors open.
Right.
Wow.
So I'm in the locker room getting changed, he's getting changed, and we're getting changed and planning this match at the same time.
Wow.
And essentially by the time I was changed and ready to go, my music hits. Let's just go.
Wait, and that was your second match in Australia? Dude, that is intense, bro.
Wait, and this is like you've never done calling in the ring or like last minute planning before, right? Before this trip.
I've never really had to. Yeah, I've never really had to.
How did the match go?
But yeah, it was fun. Yeah. The crowds there, I find for the way that I carry myself and the way that I present, I can pantomime a lot more. So I can get the crowd like against me quite easily.
Yeah,
I see.
And so we just called the ring. We just worked the match, and this was my first time in like a low ring. So the rings there are not. This is something that like didn't click in my head until I got there.
Yeah.
Every promoter seems to own their own ring.
Oh.
Okay.
So
like different heights, different structure, different sizes, even
different bump, like everything feel like different ropes. Even,
right.
Like, it's just. Yeah, so this ring it's called a low boy, and it's meant for low ceiling venues.
Oh.
And it's maybe a foot off, the apron is maybe a foot long.
Right.
It's only like a foot tall.
Yeah.
And so I was doing this move where I baseball slide my opponent catch his leg, and then I spike his knee on the outside on the apron. And I did that. And the next part was supposed to turn him over and like wrap his leg around the apron.
Yeah.
But I realized as I was doing it that if I do that, it's a low ring. His foot will hit the floor before it hits the apron.
Yeah.
So it's just learning how to improvise on the fly given the situation that you have.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool.
And I was working heel and I was like getting the crowd on the outside, right? And this like one fan in the front row gets their phone and puts Aziz Ansari's Wikipedia on their phone and just shows it to me while I'm working heel.
Why?
Apparently brown guy equals Aziz Ansari there. Like
what? Well, I mean, we don't want to go into that, but what? Okay. That is so random. Did you find that you were working heel more often in this trip, or was it 50-50?
It was 50-50.
Oh, okay.
But the thing about this trip is that every match I worked was so different.
Right.
Every match I worked, I was a different type of me. I was wrestling like heavy hitting main event title matches. I wrestled 2 comedy matches. I wrestled like it was very different.
Oh, okay.
Like I really had to like diverse my brain of wrestling.
Hey, you did mention when we first started talking like years ago. You said like one of your favorite styles is like you want to really go into comedy wrestling, right? Are you still? Is that still like your foundation as a wrestler, or do you feel like you've gotten away from that, or you've just grown from that, or evolved from that?
I think, like this is a personal opinion on it, and my opinion on it is that it's very hard, especially in this region, to be a full-on comedy wrestler.
I see. Yeah.
Because the way you get booked gets very pigeonholy. The way that I decided I love comedy wrestling. Like, if you ask me, how do I want to wrestle? Let's have a laugh. Like, that's my thing. I just like doing stupid shit.
Okay.
But I realized that if I want to be taken seriously as a wrestler, I have to be able to go. And so that's why, like, I like the fact that I can do everything, even though that's like my ideal. You know what I mean?
I see.
I mean, I've always said this on the podcast as well. I believe that there is room in pro wrestling for comedy, but it's exactly that, right? It's comedy within pro wrestling as opposed to just all out acting a fool all the time. Like you say, you're just going to get pigeonholed and you're just going to be, the joke guy or the guy with balloons in his head or hands or whatever the hell, right?
And like, for example, look at the best comedy wrestlers in the world. You got like Grado, you got your Colt Cabanas. Like they're wrestlers where they're comedy wrestlers, yes, but they don't look out of place in a title picture.
Right.
Because they are good wrestlers as well.
Yes. They just inject a little humorous the facials and everything. It's like, that's a funny moment within a serious match. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay, talk to us about this. Wait, hang on. Let me go back to the whole Jetstar thing. You mentioned your beef with Jetstar. Did that happen before or after, like while you were leaving or while you were coming to Australia?
My last booking got screwed by Jetstar. So essentially, I'll get into it. So I'll just get into it. I'll get into it first. Yeah. So it was I was wrestling. I wrestled the Friday night in Melbourne, and I was supposed to wrestle the Saturday night in Perth. So I was supposed to have a 6 a.m. flight to Perth so I can fly out and wrestle.
Right.
Okay.
I get to the airport at 4 a.m. My flight's been cancelled. I only found out once I was there. Like, it was to the point where the cancellation email and the cancellation phone number arrived while I was in the help desk queue waiting to talk to them about it.
Oh my God.
That means everyone else on the flight also was already there or preparing to go in?
Already there.
Oh, damn. Why?
So they had a crew shortage. Phenomenal.
A crew shortage?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it happens. Yeah.
They don't have enough people in Australia to fill up a plane. What are you talking about?
So like,
if you need someone to serve peanut, I'm down now. Like,
just get me there, right? So I mean, obviously you had to cancel that last match. What did you do with the extra day? I guess then.
So this is what happened. Yeah. So I was supposed to fly to Perth, wrestle on the Saturday, and then fly back to Singapore from Perth.
I see.
There was no Gold Coast flight. There was no Melbourne flight to Perth, either the Saturday or the Sunday. So by right, I was supposed to miss my flight.
Right.
So push come to shove, I get them to organize me. I somehow convinced Jetstar to book me a flight from Melbourne to Singapore.
Wow.
So
Okay.
because at that point I'm just like I want to go home.
Yeah. Just forget it lah. Oh
And
wow.
then so I got him to book that, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the nearest possible airport.
Yeah.
And for context, I was staying at Eman Azman's place in Melbourne when I was there,
Right.
and I'd given him back his key.
Oh,
So it's 4 a.m. I've given him back his key. So by right, I've got nowhere to stay.
correct.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm like, shit. And like I'd mentally prepared to just sit in the airport. I had gone I like a full full tantrum. I was like, I'm just gonna sit in the airport. I'm gonna stay here. This is where I'm gonna be now. Fuck your stuff. I'm gonna sit here till my flight.
Right.
And then my girlfriend she stayed up to until I got on the flight, and then she was like, "Why are you sitting at the airport?" I was like, "Because this happened." Then she helped me organize a Holiday Inn, and I'm
Wow.
very very thankful for that.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And
Very
but
sweet
the
of her.
annoying part about the Holiday Inn is that basically there's a 4-carriage expressway this way. Out of the airport, there's a 4-carriage expressway this way.
Mm.
I am here at the airport.
Right.
So to get to the Holiday Inn,
Yeah.
I've got to run across 2
Oh.
4-carriage expressways
Wait.
with no crossings.
What
with
the
my
hell?
suitcase.
No, I thought you took a bus or something. There was no
You
transit.
jaywalk the expressway. Is that what you're saying?
What the
I jaywalked
hell?
2 expressways.
Walao.
Bro, this is
Bro.
some road stories going on.
Dude,
Damn.
and
I
this
know.
is the annoying part. My shoulder was a little bit janky from the match the week prior.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And as I was pushing my 20 kilo suitcase,
Yeah.
the suitcase hit a pothole
Yeah.
and jarred my shoulder, and I couldn't feel my arm
Oh.
Oh,
for
dear.
a solid hour. And I was like, oh shit, I've torn my AC joint again. Oh no,
Oh.
Damn,
Wait,
damn.
you said again you tore your AC.
I tore my AC joint at the start of 2020.
Oh shit.
Damn, this
Ah.
was before
then-
COVID. So this was...
And then actually because of COVID, I never rehabbed it as well as I probably should have.
Mm-hmm.
I
And so
see,
now
I see.
it causes me a few issues, but
Right.
Do
whatever.
you recall which match that happened, or was it just training?
just me being stupid.
Okay.
It wasn't even training. It was me being stupid.
Oh, dear
Right,
God. Okay,
right.
okay. We don't have to get into it, I guess.
Yeah. What was your most memorable moment in your Australia trip? I mean, you got all these stories from each different event, but what was the one that maybe? Okay. Most
something jogged
memorable.
his memory.
Yeah.
My second match in Melbourne.
Okay.
My second match in Melbourne, right? The night before, so I was working on Friday, Saturday. And the Friday, I worked a main event title match.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So you can imagine how much we were beating into each other, ripping each other apart for that.
Yeah.
But I had to wrestle the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, let's try and go somewhat light today.
Okay.
Then so I get to the venue and I notice that the venue has a disco ball right above the ring.
Disco ball.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So what does my mind say? We're having a fucking dance break.
Oh, okay. Got it.
This is one. So I was wrestling a guy called Kid Valiant who wrestles out in Melbourne, great friend of mine. And essentially, this match brought back a lot of my love for comedy wrestling.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't done comedy at all on the trip, and I had just been like, okay, I'm gonna be a serious wrestler. I'm just gonna do serious wrestling this trip. And yeah, so our match had a dance break to the
the
Time
song?
of My Life, the song from Dirty Dancing.
Oh, Dirty Dancing song. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Time
Yeah,
of my
so we-
life. Yeah.
We had a dance break to that in the middle of our
Nice.
match.
Nice.
Okay,
If you go to
that
I think I tweeted it. Yeah, the clip is somewhere online.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay,
that was
great.
I love that match. But yeah, so I did one more booking in Queensland before I flew to Melbourne, and that was I did the Friday, Saturday. That was that Saturday, and I worked one more show the next Friday.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Did you hit Sydney or you?
No, I didn't get a chance.
I
So I was supposed to do Brisbane, Gold Coast, Melbourne, Perth, but then
Yeah. I mean, essentially, you started in the northeast of Australia, work your way down,
essentially that was the plan.
I see. Oh, okay. I mean, of course, Melbourne is. I think we all know that's where Rhea Ripley, Buddy Murphy, they were in the one of the promotions in Melbourne, right? They came out.
Buddy Murphy I don't want to be quoted on this, but like,
Mm.
because I know if anyone Australian wrestling listens, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay.
I know Buddy Murphy was Melbourne based for a while. Yeah, the
Mm.
Melbourne scene is really, really strong. And like the thing I
Nice.
loved about wrestling in Australia is that every promotion felt somewhat different. Like I was either working like a really rural show, or like I was working in the middle of a town or like a city, and like you have to wrestle differently depending on those crowds.
Right.
Like this was so the last show I worked in Queensland, I was working as the heel,
I see.
and I started getting, because of my gear, and it's a very rural area,
Oh.
Yeah.
I started getting a lot of homophobic abuse.
Right.
And I was which sucks. But the funniest part was the fact my girlfriend was in the crowd. My girlfriend was in the crowd hearing them shout homophobic things at me, and I was like,
Okay,
sure,
I've done my job.
Yeah,
right,
this is
yeah,
hilarious. Yeah, this is so interesting because I wanted to ask about, like, there's so many different promotions in Australia. Do they have like a NWA style of like, okay, everyone's under one umbrella of a territory, or like the promoters don't know each other, they're rivals? Like, what's the vibe there?
This is the thing I appreciate, and something that I feel will help, like, is what helped that scene get so good. Everyone works for everyone. Everyone, you're wrestling, you're at a wrestling school, but you can work shows, like,
right.
And it's up to you to get your bookings.
I see.
Your first few, your coach will help you get, but after, it's up to you to get booked places.
Wow, okay.
I see.
And that forces people from different wrestling schools to really go out of their way and network and meet each other, and like, it forces you to get better so that you can have opportunities, which I feel was like a massive. I feel it's like a massive thing as to why that scene is so good.
What do you think is the biggest like promotion there in terms of like coverage and profile and the reputation?
I mean, that would be, it would be like, to my understanding, would either be Riot City Wrestling, or MCW, Melbourne City, the one where Eman is the Inter-Commonwealth champion.
I see.
Yeah.
Riot City is also in Melbourne as well, or no?
No, I don't remember where that is. It's either Sydney or Adelaide. I think it's Adelaide.
Okay. I mean, we can do our research. Well, but it's so interesting to know that there's such a vibrant scene in Australia, because sometimes we kind of forget or take for granted that there has been a lot of Australian wrestlers recently getting on to WWE and AEW, getting onto the mainstream, and I'm sure they started from Australia itself.
With Australia in the rear view mirror and looking forward, I mean, in just a little while, we'll take a look at what will be your last match in Singapore for the foreseeable future anyway. Is that true to say?
I think it is.
I think it is. For the next little while anyway.
I'm not going to say anything, but I'll put a little asterisk next to it, last match.
Yeah, but we'll jump back to the SPW card in just a bit. But like, okay, you talk about you're moving to the UK for your university studies. Have you been doing your research in terms of all the local wrestling promotions in the UK? Have you started making calls, sending email, texts?
Yeah. So I don't think I realized how much goes into wrestling outside of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And like with your especially with the Australia tour, like the amount of time I spent like sending DMs or like sending matches to people and I've had to do that for the UK as well.
Right.
And like, if you look where I've like the uni, so I'm going to Goldsmiths, and which is South London, and I can't lie, I picked my accommodation based off ease of travel to wrestling school.
Nice. Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
And so so I think, I plan to wrestle over there. Let's see what happens, but hopefully Straight Source takes the UK essentially.
Awesome.
So from what I'm hearing is that yes, you still go to school, but you haven't quote unquote officially booked wrestling matches yet, right?
I'm not gonna. I have rumblings, but I'm not gonna properly book anything until I've got my schedule set.
Oh, and you settle down a little bit.
Yeah, I still don't know my uni schedule, so I'm not gonna book anything quite yet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
but sense. I will be wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking ahead into like possibly wrestling in UK, and of course, based on your experience in Australia, right? What do you think is something about like the fact, like say you tell this Australian communities and fans that, oh, you're from Singapore. What is their impression of like, oh, a wrestler from Singapore? And like, how do you think that could be like a unique selling point when you go to UK as well?
So like, especially in Australia, when I was working as a babyface, I would say from Singapore. Whereas when I'm working as a heel, I would say from London, England, by way of Singapore. I would use that as like a really cheap bite.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, okay. So it's like,
I think
okay.
the thing about like we're fortunate with this scene is that a lot of people have come here. A lot of even though we're a very young scene, a lot of international pros and like a lot of like very well-traveled people and people who are very well connected have come to this region before.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of knowledge that we exist, which is very helpful to me.
Nice.
And also there's a lot of intrigue because we're a holiday destination, especially from people from Australia, people from the UK. So like, oh, there's wrestling there.
Yeah.
And it's like very it's quite good, especially at shows. Because I would have fans come up to me just to talk to me about Singapore, and then I feel like a Visit Singapore ambassador all of a sudden.
Diego. Okay. Yeah, and that's really cool because like now that you're in the potentially in the UK for the long haul, do you feel will you somehow bring your Singapore identity into your wrestling presentation when you're in the UK, or like is this a full reinvention? What's your plans in terms of how Straight Sauce is going to be presented?
I think the thing about the Straight Sauce persona is that it is me. Like especially in Australia, I was getting announced as your mom's favorite wrestler, Straight Sauce John Day.
Diego.
I only developed like once and that was something that clicked there that I'm gonna start using to carry on. And it's very much like I think it's a character I can do a lot with, and it's a personality I can do a lot with. Because if I want you to hate me, I can get you to hate me. If I want, and like we all know the idea of like the arrogant, spoiled brat kid, which is what I am when I'm a heel, and we all know like I can be the lovable kid character if I need to, because that was my job for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes, we recall. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I think the way I wrestle is very universal and can travel. So it's just developing to try and just get better at that. And I think going to places where I'm not the best guy on the show, I'm not like the like top few guys on a show, I'm not like looked at as like I'm not where I have room to grow, essentially. Where I've got room to like where I can look up a card and be like, okay, these guys are better than me, these guys are better than me, what are they doing? Like I can learn, I can really like pay attention and learn from people.
Yeah,
I think that's really important for my development.
True.
That's cool.
So, I mean, you're going away, you're going to be wrestling there, you're going to be studying as well. I know you probably haven't had any, thought about it, but like, will we see Straight Sauce in Singapore again? I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, you make your big return. Have you envisioned the big return?
I can't say I have, but let me just put it like this. Given I've got family here and I've spent a lot of life here, I think I'll be back generally. And if I'm back and someone wants to wrestle me, I'll put my gear in my hand luggage. I'm down.
There you go. All right. So
I want to wrestle here again. Like I don't want this to be me done in Singapore, because I think there is a lot there is a lot of people I still want to wrestle, and there's a lot that I feel like this scene will grow, and I don't want to miss out on that growth.
Yeah. Who is that one wrestler you wish you had that marquee match with in Singapore?
I've never had a singles match with the Lady Killer.
Oh,
wow.
I've never had a single match with Dennis. I want to wrestle Dennis properly.
Bro, why, bro? Why not? I mean,
it's just never happened.
Okay, let's make it happen. Maybe in 2 years' time, he comes back, he's a different Straight Sauce. Then throw the challenge down, That kind of thing.
Okay.
No, but honestly, I want to wrestle. Like a lot of the guys who I like grew up with, I've never actually wrestled in a singles capacity. So I would love to just like go get better and then wrestle them. And it's like, it's just that sort of thing where I like to use the Cody Rhodes phrase, I want to finish the story.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta have the Cody list. You gotta have like your full scan paper and like all the ticks out as well. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Let's talk about the show that's happening SPW on the let me get the date right here. It's the 18th of August, Friday, by the way. While you're watching this video on YouTube, it's this Friday. It's live at the Fuchao building, SPW Valour. It's really cool because, the statement is back, right? He's been in Japan for quite a while already, training at Tajiri School and everything. So it'll be interesting to see what extra, little bells and whistles, what tricks he's picked up from the man with the green mist. But let's take a quick look at the card, because you will be on the card as well, right? And I hear that you are eyeing a certain prize. A delicious belt, one might say.
I mean, if I'm leaving and I have a belt, I can create a franchise over there. If you think about it, it's a little side income while I'm in uni.
Yeah.
Start my own burger restaurant, maybe.
Hey, burgers translate no matter where you are, right?
Indeed.
That is true. Yeah, I will be there on the 18th. I missed out on a title belt in Australia because I didn't buy enough storage space in my bag. So I will not. No, I was supposed to wrestle. So my final match that I actually wrestled was for a company called Deathmatch Down Under. Also, my first time ever actually seeing a deathmatch in real life.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
So I wrestled my match, went to the merch table, just sat there with my beer, and was just like, those guys, that's real barbed wire. That's real glass.
Oh my God.
Damn, they're crazy, man. Okay.
Would you ever do something like that? Would you do a death match? I think we have
like this.
Yeah.
Let me put it like this.
Okay.
Light tubes are on my bucket list.
I see.
They are. Okay. Interesting. All right. But yes, let's talk.
Yeah, can you for one day just bring a Singapore cane to like UK and use that as part of your gimmick somehow? Singapore wrestling with Singapore cane, why not?
Sure. Let's see how many promoters pitch that. We won't be. Let's see how quickly I won't be able to count on two hands how many promoters pitch that.
Yeah. I don't think that will work in 2023 anymore, would it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Let's talk about working this SPW show that's coming up on Friday, right? Like, so you're gunning for the NBCB title.
Yes.
Thoughts about perhaps leaving Singapore with a title belt?
I mean, I'm gonna have to buy a little bit more storage space.
Sure.
But I'll buy enough baggage space to bring my belt home this time. Yeah.
And
easy.
And the thing about that title is it's got that 24/7 sort of rule kinda on it as well. So if you fly away, they can't come and challenge you for the title. I think this is a great idea.
Exactly. I like how you think.
You just fly out. In Scully, you have like one of them hiding in the cabin, looking to pin you while you're sleeping on the plane.
If you see Dharma somehow in a Heathrow airport, you know what's going on.
What are you doing here?
We see Dharma and like the SIA flight attendant outside, just like on the plane. It's like you.
Yeah.
My belt.
Beef, chicken, or fish, and then bang. No. Those are some legit ideas, by the way. I want to talk about the rest of the card as well, which is very interesting. I made this very weird observation, right? That the two guests that are facing off against our Singapore representatives all have like this thing where they cover their face. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, but you see,
the scorpion look.
Right. Okay. So you got the statement, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Facing off against Carlo Cannon. Tell us a little bit more about Carlo Cannon. And dude looks scary. And
Carlo is a fucking monster.
Look at him.
I'm saying that straight up.
Look at this guy.
Carlo is a scary man and a fucking monster in the ring.
Also, doesn't he look
outside the ring?
Yeah.
Fucking monster in the ring.
Doesn't he look like the evolved version of Butcherman a little bit? Same vibe, doesn't he?
If Butcherman eats the meat rather than if Butcherman eats all of the meat rather than selling it.
Yeah, agree.
Right.
Agree.
So you got statement facing off against Carlo Cannon, right? And then you have Aiden Rex versus Yoshitatsu. Yoshitatsu also covering his face. So I was like, what's going on? Huh? Why the two main event fellas covering their face? What's the deal with that gimmick? But no, that one is for the SPW Southeast Asian Championship match. I mean, we've all seen Yoshitatsu on WWE TV before, right? Like, do you have any sort of experience with him? In terms of wrestling, have you heard anything about him?
I know that from my understanding, after WWE he leveled up a lot. So and like he got like, have you seen how big he is?
Right.
He's a lot bigger now than he was
jacked.
in WWE. So I think it'll be quite an exciting
Basically,
quite an
he did
exciting
a Carlito like essentially. He just got even more jacked.
just got huge, just got big. Yeah.
Right.
Where is he wrestling now? What's his home base promotion?
Oh, I should know this. I don't know this off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, he's based in Japan, I assume, right? Like he's one of the promotions in Japan.
But he's now like a massive like name in Japan. He really like after WWE, he really like got that like status.
Right.
So that'll be a good match. That'll be a really good match.
I didn't even know this about him. He's a former boxer and an MMA practitioner as well. And it will be very interesting going up against a person who is, quite... I mean, we all know Aiden as the high-flying guy, but he's also a very technical submission-based guy as well, right? So this should be a very, very interesting match. It is for the SPW Southeast Asian Championship, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Let me very quickly go back to Statement versus Carlo Cannon. Can we just No, because it just the idea just popped into my head, right? Can we assume that this is going to be very, very, very hard-hitting? Yeah, John's like,
Carlo, look, if I had Carlo, like if I just had Carlo, I would never need to buy a door again. I would just put him in front of my house, and he will fight off everything that ever tries to come for me. Carlo is a very scary man.
Okay,
Carlo is a brick shit house. He's a big motherfucker. It will be there. It will be very fun to watch.
I've never really seen him wrestle before. Can you give more context of his wrestling style? I mean, he's from IPW. Am I right?
No, so Carlo is like a proper veteran out in Australia.
Oh, Australia.
Like Carlo is
he's trained by Lance Storm. Yeah.
Yes. And so like if you notice, like let me put it like this: if you saw Eman's level up after he left Malaysia and went to Australia. That's because he was being trained by Carlo.
I see. Okay.
Carlo is like that guy. Like he's
the veteran there in
in
Australia, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the fact that you look at this photo and Statement looks small next to Carlo. Carlo looks legit like a monster here. So I'm looking forward to that.
Carlo, let's put it like this. Carlo could bicep curl me. Like, just for reps. I'm sitting about 70 kg right now. He could just rep me for reps.
Right. Nice. Okay, so we also have a couple of other matches. Let's very quickly preview them. Riho is coming back, which is always a crowd favorite. She will be in a triple threat match against Alexis Lee and Ancham. I am unfamiliar with Ancham. Do you guys know anything about Ancham?
No.
Gato Move she's from.
Personally don't. Right. Okay.
Yeah, she's from Gato Move, Ganbare Pro, or Ice Ribbon. Submission specialist and a gravure model.
Oh.
Okay, nobody Google what that means. Actually, I barely know what that means. John, you all right over there?
Are you Googling right now?
To bring up. I'm just saying it's a weird thing to bring up.
It's on the it's on the card. It's right there in the write up. That's what I'm going off of, bro.
I see.
That's on the
It's on the write up. It's not like I went and like, okay, what is, and like started looking at all her pictures in front of me and stuff like that. I mean, obviously we know who Riho is. We've seen her here. We've seen her on AEW. Of course, we know who Alexis Lee is. This is for the Queen of Asia Championship. So this is going to be a fun one. High flying as we can always expect, right? Who do you think is going to, come out on top here? Do you think Alexis, like she's defended?
I just hope they beat up Alexis. Just let them beat up Alexis.
Why? Why no love?
I'm saying that with love.
Right.
No, but you're right. I mean, Alexis has been garnering some heel shit recently.
Sure,
I remember the previous show. Yeah, she's having a hard age to her right now.
Yeah, but she's also been defending that title like quite consistently. I have to add. They brought in a lot of talents from Japan, whatnot, to challenge her. So I'm actually like looking forward to seeing like, hey, are they going to dethrone her at some point, or what's going on? I mean, it's kind of a sad situation where she doesn't really have competition in Singapore. Because do you remember before the pandemic there were a few that were kind of like, oh, okay, I see where they're going, but then all of a sudden they just disappeared after the pandemic. I guess you could understand, but yeah, the state of like the women who want to wrestle in Singapore a bit not there . right?
Well, you never know who might be inspired to
Yeah.
come into wrestling based on the matches that we see in SPW.
But the thing is about that is that wrestling in this region is still growing, and like
Yeah.
I think honestly, like it just needs more of a like. I think the issue with like wrestling in Singapore is that it's become very self-enclosed.
Yeah.
Whereas that like when I was doing stand-up, I hit a point where I was like, oh yeah, I also do pro wrestling. And people were like, there's pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that pro wrestling has been in this country for like nearly 12
more
years
than
now?
a decade. More than a
Yeah,
decade.
more than a decade. The fact that that's like that, and we're such a small country, yet there's people who haven't heard of it, is insane to me.
Do you
But I
think?
think-
Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is a random thought, bro. Random thought that came. Do you think Singaporeans are too quote unquote smart and snarky for wrestling? Like you go into the comment section of any TikTok, YouTube, whatever page, right? And you see the amount of snark there, and like, okay, you guys think you're very smart. Like I feel like Singaporeans are like that.
But I feel like that's true. But there's also, because of the fact that pro wrestling, everything is pro wrestling.
Sure.
There is a way to sell pro wrestling to anybody. Because like you say that, but take these people and put them like, if we have like a wrestling show just like in the middle, like in a mall or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what they do in other countries.
Yeah.
People will stop and watch.
Oh yeah.
Because even if you know that it's quote unquote fake, wrestling is very, very interesting, even when you don't understand it.
It's visceral, right? It's like people.
Yeah.
It's like it's like really like an exhibition. You can see what's going on.
So it's like when SPW did that thing at the comic convention when
Grapple Max, Marina Bay Slam,
and the poetry thing as well, some festival outdoors, like people. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. You don't need a lot of setup and knowledge to understand two people duking it out in a ring. So then my question becomes like, how do we get this out there more? Like, okay, is it putting it up on, like, okay, like, they are putting out the content on YouTube, right? But you have to want to go and find it. It's not like something that, is being shared very often. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's a very weird place to put it, but I feel like if there was a way, like, I feel like if there was a way to get, because wrestling is very expensive to run. I know that. Like in this region, it's very expensive to run shows. Of course it is. But if there was a way to run it at like malls or like places like where people go, because that's what they did with my PW's run in malls a few times. And also like the reason Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grew in Singapore, or like one of the reasons why there was a lot of growth in the last few years, was the fact they used to run the Jiu-Jitsu tournaments in like Aperia Mall, in City Square Mall.
Right.
And people just walk past as like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And then do that with pro wrestling, where your sole intense purpose is to get the crowd to interact, get the crowd engaged.
The football crowd, right?
Yeah, exactly. People are not gonna, like, if they're not wrestling fans, they're not gonna go out their way to see it. But if they see it, wrestling is such a thing where people will catch eyes on it and will watch.
Yes.
And then it's just the idea of getting a flyer in their hand while they're watching.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like right before the pandemic, there was really great momentum behind Grapple Max as well. I remember they released the Avengers style timeline of events, and then they were even performing at that under the Singapore Flyer. I can't remember what event. It was like a night festival.
We wrestled at Chingay.
And you guys did the mat on the floor, and then just people watching. And I feel like
such a flex. The fact that I've wrestled the F1 pit building is still one of my biggest statuses. I love that.
It's a pretty dope view, pretty dope visual, right? So so I was just thinking, you're right. Like I think it's more about embedding a wrestling kind of variety segment in one of the more well-known events, like whichever that's happening in Singapore. And I think we need people in like you said, the creative industry or like the media, which is what we're trying to do, to kind of amplify wrestling in all these situations, right?
And also, like, I have a belief that Singapore honestly could be a very fun market for wrestling, just because of the way Singapore humor is, in the way we take the piss out of everything. Like,
for sure.
Singapore loves making fun of itself.
Yep.
And Singaporeans love making fun of other Singaporeans. I feel like wrestling is one of those things where it fits very perfectly into that niche.
But it almost as if we need our wrestlers to kind of be really, really like on the pulse of that and be able to be one step ahead, to not only and make fun of themselves, but also elevate it so that people enjoy themselves even though they are making fun of the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the worst thing that local wrestling can do is take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when they get super, like you said, like enclosed, right?
But hang on. I want to sort of, I have a bone to pick with that. Just for the fact that I think that if you don't take wrestling seriously, it comes off as hokey sometimes. And that's also something you don't want people to sort of have the view, they're just doing the hokey, jokey wrestling stuff, right? So it's that balance, right? It's that sliding scale. Yeah, you have a little bit of comedy within your matches, but also you need some badasses out there slapping meat and making it look painful so that people go, whoa, shit, this shit is real. And then you want to, invest more in it because...
But if you say that, if you look at like classic feuds, if you look at like Rock Austin, there were parts of Rock Austin where it was kind of like jokey, where it wasn't.
Sure.
But you're not going to say that was hokey because it was very well done. If the fundamentals, if the build up and the fundamental of it is still in serious wrestling, and it's still built in combat, you just use that as entertainment.
No, sure. No, I totally get that too. But like you said, right, it was very well done. There is a difference between doing something hokey and high production value, and that goes to the WWF because they have millions and millions of dollars worth of production equipment. They can do the packages. Whereas I think here, because of the budget issue, right? Like, I get that everybody is trying to put out videos to tell the stories and stuff like that. But it's, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's also Rock and Austin. They're literally like two of the best ever, right? And in terms of the level of commitment that they put into these roles, how much charisma they have, it's on a completely different level. And that's why even non-wrestling fans still know who The Rock and Stone Cold are, Triple H, Mankind, Undertaker, that kind of stuff. So I guess,
Young has a great point about how, like, when you have all the fun stuff, to kind of get people in, but they will stay for the main event serious stuff, even though they are not wrestling fans. Because I've seen that with my own girlfriend or like some of my colleagues who like didn't know anything about wrestling, but when they watch the main event matches, right, whether it was SPW or like a grapple pack show, and they're like, oh damn, these people are really, really good at what they do, and they can admire the athleticism, their ability to do storytelling. So I'm not afraid of like the quality that we can put out in local wrestling. It's more of the opportunity. So I think we are ready for the audience, but the audience needs to be ready for us.
The thing that I appreciate post-COVID is I feel like a lot of the promotions, or all three promotions, have stepped up the way they like the outside of wrestling. Like the production quality on Graph Max promos is like great now. And like the storytelling coming out of Ring of Rebirth and like that sort of narratives that they create, like it's now people are starting to prioritize the parts of wrestling outside the fundamental wrestling, and I think that's the part that we were kind of missing for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm very excited to see, as long as nothing happens again that cuts the momentum, touch wood, that COVID, touch wood. I'm quite excited to see where this goes.
I even remember the first time we saw a Ring of Rebirth production on YouTube. You were like, hey, those graphics are pretty dope. Like those pre-hype packages and vignettes are really dope. So,
and I think maybe you weren't in town as well. The last Grapple Max event where they did in that studio, I was telling Foreign, it's like it was quite the step up. I don't know,
very good,
right? With the big LED screen at the back with the Titantron, and I was like, wow, okay, I can foresee a future where studio shows, like monthly shows, that kind of stuff would look really good. Like you step up in terms of the production. And talking about SPW, now they are on the streaming service. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but this just means more eyeballs, right, on the product. Premier Streaming Network. Okay, I'm not familiar with this streaming network, but I'm definitely going to check it out. But SPW is going to be on there together with stuff like Impact Wrestling, Major League Wrestling, CZW. So it's like, if you're a wrestling fan, like outside of
big name indie wrestling.
Yeah, it's like indie wrestling haven over here. So wow.
Yeah, that's really a great get as well. It's really fun times in local wrestling, and I agree what you say, right, John, where you don't want to miss out on what's happening or the growth that's going to be happening in local wrestling here in Singapore. What do you think you're going to miss most about being in Singapore once you're over there? Have you thought about that?
I think the thing that I'm really going to miss is the fact that a lot of the people, basically everyone of the older gen of Singapore wrestling has known me since I was 15, 14. So I get big brothered by a lot of people here. And I'm very appreciative of the fact that I have that position.
Yeah.
where I feel looked out for a lot. And when I go overseas, I'm 21. I'm walking to rescue schools as a 21-year-old. I have to, I'm not going to have that same adult and child, rapport. I'm not going to have the same rapport with people that I've developed over the last 5 years. But I honestly do think it's important for not just me, but a lot of people from our scene who are more senior to leave, because what I've noticed with Singaporeans is that Singaporeans only really pay attention once foreigners come and pay attention to our stuff.
Yes.
Once the foreigners pay attention, and thing is, if you look at it, I was in Australia and people were telling me, "Oh yeah, I watched your Triple Threat with Butcher and Cornelius Law." I was like, "Huh? What? Huh? Okay, yeah. No."
Nice. So if you do research on you beforehand or what? Or what's...
No, they just watched. They just watched the match. They not because I was coming. But there was there was 2 people in Queensland and 1 person in Melbourne who mentioned watching that match just because, there's wrestling in Singapore.
Yeah.
And because that match just exists. And I was like, okay.
So what you're kind of saying is what we need is for Dante Chen to make it to that main event level on NXT and then onto Raw, SmackDown, whatever it is, to bring that shine. Because, I guess at the end of the day, he's... I don't want to say he's our only hope right now because of the position he's in, but kind of, right?
I think one isn't enough because one, you get the Joseph Schooling effect, where it's just let's put it like this. How much did Joseph Schooling really do to grow swimming in Singapore? You need more people who do.
Well,
you need more people who travel and do things to actually bring the crowd.
There was I read a news article. There was a legit spike in more swimming classes, more people taking up swimming because of Joseph Schooling. But no, I totally get that. You can have that one-time boost, right? But where do you go from there?
Yeah, exactly.
You need consistency, and the scene may be young, but there are a lot of really, really talented guys and gals that we've seen locally. So hopefully, one day.
If for you, John, right, especially since you really have experience wrestling other wrestlers from other countries, right? Who do you think in Singapore you feel is ready for that next step up? They already kind of reached that potential limit here in Singapore, and you feel them being in another territory, wrestling in other countries will actually level them up.
Honestly, it's not about specific people. It's more so about once you hit a certain point where you have true belief in your own ability, because there's only so good you can get wrestling in Singapore exclusively. Because your 10 years is cool and all. You're spending 10 years around the exact same people, and there's no new format of knowledge that's coming into that circle. It's just the same. It's just the same knowledge going in a circle. So what you need, or what I feel the scene needs, is more people of a senior stature going overseas. Touring, whatever, and then bringing that knowledge back, and that's how it levels up. It's not about guys who I feel can reach that level. It's who thinks themselves that they have hit that level themselves, because it's not a call that you can. It's a confidence in yourself that no one else can tell you about.
I agree.
It's probably one of the big reasons why Statement flew over to Japan to spend time there, learn from Tajiri, and bring some of that knowledge back for his guys, right? And also what Greg and them did when they visited Japan, remember? With Cal and all of them. So, Go ahead, Foreign.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just ruminating about the fact, Melbourne, right?
Nice word.
Yeah.
Ruminating.
Of course. Ruminating, indeed.
How many points is that in Scrabble? That's a nice word.
Try it out, bro.
RUMINA.
When you're in London, try it out. Yeah. So I was just thinking, bro. If you could restart, or for example, if you could have actually placed yourself in anywhere in the map, right, to kind of get the kind of training that you feel that would level you up, where would it be? And if you were so-called a gaijin, a foreigner coming to Singapore, right, what would be the first thing that you tell local wrestlers in Singapore to hey, this is what you need to level up? So I'm giving you the shoes of somebody outside, the foreigner that's coming into Singapore.
I think the biggest thing if I get trouble, I'm trying to work out whether or not I'll get in trouble for saying this. I'm trying to think of a political way of saying it. More guys need to work outside their home territory. Straight up.
Sure.
This is something I've said fundamentally multiple times. but there is not enough money in Southeast Asian there is not enough money in Southeast Asian wrestling right now where you can wrestle exclusively one place. Because if you want to level up and get to a point where you can do this as a career and you can do you're like TV ready and all of that, which I'm nowhere near. I'm accepting I'm nowhere near that. But if you want to reach that level, I feel like you've got to experience everything. And wrestling once a month for your home promotion is not how you do that. Like I was supposed to wrestle 7 matches in 7 weeks. Yep. 7 matches is more than I would wrestle in Singapore this year.
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
It's and I understand why there's not so many shows, but you learn so much more in front of a crowd than you do. Like I can teach you, like you can learn how to sell, how to do a comeback, all that stuff in the ring at training.
Yeah.
But how do you know that your shit works unless you test it out in front of a crowd?
Yeah, in front of a live audience, right? Yeah. And the Australian wrestlers, are they making a living from their wrestling, or what? How's their scene like in that sense?
Let's put it like this: money in wrestling over there, like for full clarity, my booking fee was between 70 and 100 AUD there, depending on the show.
Sure.
And one thing I appreciated, and one thing that I was like, fair enough, was that you got your job you would get paid. You're getting paid to wrestle. Like guys are not making living wages of wrestling, but there's almost a respect element to it because you're still putting your body online, entertaining a crowd, so you're getting paid for wrestling.
Yeah, I agree.
Rather than like on tickets or on like exclusively merch sales or like you're getting. There's a level of professionalism where you're getting paid for doing the work, and you let the wrestler wrestle, you let the promoter promote, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. Because I understand in Singapore that's not necessarily the case. You make money based on the amount of tickets you sell. You know that. So
I mean, I understand why it's not at that stage yet, but it's something that I feel like as a scene we have to get towards.
Yeah, but we just don't have enough, I guess, fans or enough. We're just too small. Let's just put it this way. Like, Singapore is only so big, right? Like, you can't expect every week the auntie to go down and watch wrestling, that kind of stuff, right? Whereas, like, in Australia, in the US, Canada, you can literally go from town to town to town. There's always a wrestling show happening everywhere. But
you say that. There are areas over there where they get a wrestling show every week, and it's like a town with maybe like a 3-4 million population. And it's still, like, they have consistent shows because they've developed a culture of people watching wrestling.
Correct.
It hits a point. You need to hit a point where wrestling is not like this hokey weird thing that you go to once in a while. Like, oh my god, there's a wrestling show on. You don't want people to go because of intrigue, and then they've watched once and that intrigue is dead. You want to create a culture where they want to go back to every single show. It's like why you watch football.
Yeah.
It's like, Farhan, how many Liverpool matches you watch this season?
I'm a season pass holder, bro.
Exactly. You watch a bunch of matches. Unfortunately, I watch Watford matches, but like even though we get smashed, I still watch the club because there is a culture of watching. There is a culture of watching the sport for the sport and not for the.
But okay, but I guess the sad thing is, and I hate to make this reference, but I think a better, why can't I say this word? Correlation.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Wait a minute. Why can't I say that word suddenly?
I was thinking like, why cholesterol? Come on.
A better analogy, I guess, would be like local football. Like there are so many other options as well in terms of like if you want to watch football, most fans watch the EPL, right? So I think that's why local wrestling has such a hill to climb. In that even local football can't really make it, no offense to anyone who's a big fan of local football, but like what more wrestling, which is quote unquote even more of a niche sport.
You know what local football has over local wrestling?
What?
They got one billionaire CEO from Shopee buy one of the teams, bro.
That's what we need. That's why we need a billionaire.
You saying that though?
Yeah.
What's the funniest part you saying that? I was at the Tampines versus Albert game yesterday.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
How was it?
I watch local football.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Do you enjoy it? How was it?
No, but this thing about this, I think it's the same thing with local wrestling, that you have to view it the same way of local football. You're not watching it with the same lens.
Yeah.
You can't watch Singapore wrestling with the same lens you watch WWE. You can't watch the Singapore Premier League with the same lens that you watch the Premiership because they are different things.
Yep.
like the Women's World Cup is on, and if you try to enjoy it with the same lens that you use to watch men's football, it's not, because it's not the same thing.
Well, let's not go there. But that seems like a landmine.
No, it's a great point. But can we end
no,
on?
I'm not. It's not a dig. I'm just like, it's a different game.
No,
It's a different,
I totally get what you're saying, but I guess my point is that I think for most people, and don't get me wrong, like that's why I love going to watch Grapple Max. That's why I love going to watch SPW, right? Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can't watch it with the same lens. You can't expect the $1 million production. But at the same time, you have the $1 million production over there that is so fancy. How do we compete with that? You know what I mean? Obviously, being there live is one thing, right? But you get my point, right? It's like, as it is in terms of like the big $1 million productions, you got AEW, you got WWE. There's already so much entertainment and time pulled away from that, from your day. How, like, I find like it's gonna be so hard, right, to get me, for example, to go down and watch a show if I'm not already a fan of wrestling. Let alone, you know what? Let's
tie a bow on this. I will end with one last analogy to wrap it up. Since stand-up comedy fan over here, John, right? Like, I think that's the difference between watching like Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart.
Sure.
You know they are world famous. Everybody knows they are. There's high production, right? But as much as I enjoy them, give me Kumar any day as well. You know what I mean? I can appreciate watching a Kumar stand-up comedy.
Sure.
Even though, yes, he will never have that kind of accolade or acclaim. But for Singaporeans, he's one of our own, you know what I mean? And we can relate to the humor, right? So I think what local wrestling needs is to lean into that, the Singaporeisms of it, you know, and make it unique to us, so that when a Singaporean watches it, they don't know anything about wrestling, but they're like, oh yeah, Refi Kayu lah, oh yeah, that guy, PE teacher, you know what I mean? You know, it's the kind of humor that only locals can understand, and that's why it caters to our audience.
Oh, durian on the pole match, huh?
Of course.
That's why that's
what the triple threat with me, Butch, and Cornelius Lowe was. That was essentially what that was going for.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
There you go. So, okay, yes, to put a bow on all that, and also, very quickly, once again, SPW Valour this Friday. If there are still tickets, go and, slide into SPW's DMs and whatnot. The Horrors are going up against Wolf Ram Cartel, by the way.
Oh, yes, indeed.
It's going to be interesting.
Guys, please go watch it this Friday, because it's essentially John's final match in Singapore for a long time.
That's right. Yes, going after that title, like we mentioned as well.
Yes.
One more match that's on the card I want to quickly mention. So, two guys from Setup, which is the Thai wrestling federation. So it's Monomoth. He looks like a pretty boy. I mean, I don't know if that's the, like, look at him. He look like a K-pop star, like this fella. Versus Shivam, which we've seen before.
Oh, Shivam's a badass, yes.
Yeah, badass guy. Versus Black Arrow for the SPW Singapore Championship.
Defending champion as well. Yeah, Black Arrow.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So, hey, here's the thing. Like, anytime we want to chat with you, we could, because, Zoom, right? But you will be away from Singapore for an extended amount of time for your studies, training, and whatnot. What do you want to say to the folk in Singapore? Be it your friends, your fans, the people you've trained with, worked with?
I mean, like, it's kind of like there's a lot of thank yous I need to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a lot of what I've created outside of wrestling has been caused by wrestling, and I don't think, as I said, I don't think my life would be what it is without pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I will be back. I want to come back. I want to wrestle here. If anyone in Singapore or Southeast Asia wants to book me, I will wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
I will have a dance break for anybody. And I'll send you guys that. I love that match.
Yes.
Right, please do.
But yeah, honestly, thank you for having me. And I will be back. That's essentially it.
Yeah. Hey, anytime you're in the UK, you want to do a Zoom check-in on us. Hey, the podcast
also,
is
I'm upset
week.
I'm upset that DJ Carl retired before he wrestled me one-on-one. But I'm just like
right. You've never had a match one-on-one with DJ Cal.
I've actually, you'd be surprised the amount of guys I've never had a one-on-one match in Grapmax.
Yeah, you've had tag matches though, right? Yeah.
I think because it was that part of your career where you were still like building up, and that's why they're wrestling in a lot of tag matches. But
yeah,
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, we can't wait to see 5 years later, 3 years later, John coming and doing all these one-off matches in Singapore. That'll be great.
Yeah, man. Bro, thank you for spending time with us on the weekend. We appreciate it, absolutely. And yeah, man, we wish you nothing but the best in your future, in your studies, in wrestling. And then who knows, one day, man, maybe they do the whole NXT Europe thing again, and then all of a sudden, straight sauce, John, let's go. I mean, we can dream, can we not?
Yeah, we can. Of course, we can.
Hopefully one day. That's the goal. It's always the goal.
There you go. Once again, bro, thank you so much for spending time, and all the best, my friend.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Let me see you drop.